wants. The French want it, the Spanish want it, the Dutch want it. Everybody wants
to be in the Americas
and to own what we call North America. And of course, the native peoples who've been there for 20,000 years want to keep it. And so there's all these tensions. And so they're big land speculators too. Like normally you and I, we'd be working our land for 1,000 years for somebody else in Wales or Scotland or Ireland or England. But now we're over here and we can get 125 acres of our own. But there's big speculators like Franklin and Washington and they just decided that Native American land is mine. Why don't I divide it up and sell it and be the middleman for land they didn't yet own? The British are like, we can't protect you. Our treasury is whatever. So not only can you not cross the Appalachians in 1763, they made a rule you can't go over that. That enraged the colonists, and then they said, we need you to help pay.
The Stamp Act, is that it?
And they various things that they were going to tax us. Stamp Act they proposed, and everybody went crazy.
That was amazing. That was a good sign of how the people had a lot of control.
Well, this is what happened. The individual colonies that had no interest in connecting with one another, Franklin had suggested back in the 1750s, let's get together and do a union like the native peoples can't do. And we all said, no, we're not giving up our autonomy. Nobody came. Nobody wanted to do it. But then as these taxes happened, as the decision to not allow colonists to go into Indian land was enforced, they just suddenly started coming together. And there's committees of correspondence. There's the Sons of Liberty. There's resistance. Women are hugely part of it. You never hear about this. They keep this thing going. They said, we can do without these imported goods. We'll make our own homespun cloth. And so people are in competition. The ladies of this province are this. And so what happens is eventually, as always happens, and this happens in history so much, is that I tell you, you're acting radical. You may not be acting radical, but then you start acting more radical. You say me, you're being tyrannical. And I may not be tyrannical, but I start acting more tyrannical. And you get to this point where somebody says, we think they're storing arms in Lexington and Concord. Let's go and capture their leaders, this firebrand Samuel Adams and John Hancock, and let's collect this stuff.
So they're weapons of mass destruction.
Well, it's their rifles and muskets and flints and gunpowder, and they go and the Patriots meet them on the green at Lexington, and the British say disperse. And they start to, and shot fires out. Somebody's hit. It's a massacre. The British kill 8 or 9 of us and wound others. And then they march on to Concord. And then finally at Concord, everybody said, F this, we're going. And so they fight back. And the whole way, the retreat back to Boston is just a slaughter for the British. And then they're hemmed in. They can get out. They've got the most powerful navy on earth, but they can't move out because there's just thousands of patriots who've rushed from Rhode Island and Connecticut and New Hampshire, as well as Massachusetts towns, to the defense of Boston, and they ring them and they've got them in. And then it begins a war that is going to take 6.5 years until Yorktown. And anytime you're in telling a story, you have to remember that everyone's who's in it doesn't know how it's going to turn out. And that if you're a good storyteller, you have people tune in, pay attention to the story, because you think it may not turn out the way you know it did. That's the essence of it. So I have people telling me about my Civil War series. They say, I went into that Ford's Theater hoping the gun would jam this time. Wow. And I went, yes, that's exactly what you want, right? That's exactly what you want. Because even when the French decide to come in after the Battle of Saratoga, it's still not a given that we're going to win. Washington isn't totally sure that we're going to win. And when Charleston falls in the spring of 1780, it's like, I think the game is over. I'm not sure how we can continue. And he does. And then the French, we have a few engagements. The first couple of engagements with the French are disasters. And we're thinking maybe their help isn't going to be helpful. And then their army comes and they march with Washington, not to New York to liberate it, but around and down. And they trap Cornwallis, and the French Navy defeats the British and allows the big guns to come in from New. I mean, it is as riveting a story as you could ever
Yeah.
tell. And it's our story and nobody knows it. It's our origin story. It's our origin mythology. It's our Valhalla. It's our Thor and Odin. These are all the founding stuff. And what could be more important, and particularly today when we feel like we're divided, so divided, well, you go, well, we're pretty divided back then, and we were pretty divided during the Vietnam. We were really divided during the Great Depression, and we were really, in America first, and we were really divided during the Civil War. So maybe we're always divided, and maybe the essence is not to just keep pointing and escalating it, but say, what do we share in common? Well, I'll tell you what we share in common. We share an origin story that on July 4th in 1776, very few countries know exactly when they were born, where, Philadelphia, when, July 4th, 1776, and what. We hold these truths to be self-evident. That's our story.
What's our zodiac sign?
So we are Cancer. That's our zodiac sign. Yeah, July 4th. Although I read an article the other day that suggests that actually these borders of the signs might be shifting. So now I'm gonna put an asterisk next.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So America's a Cancer.
Cancer with an asterisk.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. Cancer is characterized as highly emotional, imaginative, and loyal.
There you go.
That's pretty American.
So maybe we ought to work on those things. Tenacious, sympathetic, creative, protective. That's pretty good.
Weaknesses are moodiness, insecurity, pessimism, and being easily hurt.
So there's
we're here. Dude.
So this is us, right? This is the U.S. This is us.
This
right?
is us.
So this is we have. There was a cartoonist named Walt Kelly, and he had a cartoon series called Pogo Strip, and at one point the main character, who's this odd animal figure, says, "We have met the enemy, and he is us," right? Because it's a variation on a military moment, and it's really true. Lincoln, as a young lawyer, not yet 29 years old,